the units, some of the units that were on maintenance returning, and we have seen that there's a level of improvement on the capacity available. And that made it possible for Eskom to revise downwards the intensity of load shedding, an opportunity to go into the long weekend period. Of course, the initial projection was that for the entire long weekend, we are going to have no load shedding suspended. But of course, it came back yesterday as a number of, on account of a number of reasons, including our challenges, the challenges that we are experiencing in the Western Cape as a result of the weather conditions. The Palmit was a big casualty of those conditions, and we're unable to exploit the Palmit, our pump station there. But I'm sure we can expand later what those the situation is and how we are addressing that situation. And of course, on account of the inclement weather in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, and our desire to make sure that we are able to support the efforts of the first responders, the emergency people to address and respond to the challenges that are associated with the inclement weather, the storms that have been experienced there. A decision was taken by Eskom to say that those areas, because of the difficulties that they are experiencing, will be exempt from load shedding, and then the rest of the country will carry the load in relation to ensuring that the megawatts that can be serviced are distributed across the entire country. And then the issues of planned outages, so you can see that it averaged 4,555. Of course, the 21st and the 22nd of September, we ramped it up to over 5,000 megawatts. It essentially an additional 1,200, 1,500 megawatts from the opening day on Monday, the 18th of September. I think the point to convey here is that we will continue relentlessly with our efforts to ensure that planned maintenance gets to be executed for the reasons that I explained the last time. Really, the intention was to make sure that everything possible is done to address the issues around the possibility of these units failing going into the future, and that therefore planned maintenance is something that receive our attention, and we are going to be diligent in ensuring that we are able to execute planned maintenance so that we are able to derive the benefit going into the future. We are able to undermine this possibility of these units failing on their own, addressing the issues around the unplanned capacity loss factor. And then again, speaking of the unplanned capacity loss factor, it averaged about 13,751. And you can see that we are now beginning to almost consistently beginning to be below the 15,000 megawatts in relation to unplanned capacity loss factor. I did make the point previously that we are striving, at least for now, to go even below 13,000 megawatts to ensure that we have as many megawatts available, because once we reduce the unplanned capacity loss factor, those megawatts gets to be added onto the available capacity, and they are also able to defray, if you like, the intensity of planned maintenance, and that's why there's no reason as a result of this exercise of reducing the unplanned capacity loss factor for us to further intensify load shedding to levels that are unacceptable. Of course, load shedding by definition is unacceptable. And of course, what's going to help now with this scenario of unplanned capacity loss factor is the prospects of the 3 units at Eskom at Kusile coming back. I did indicate that we have responded to the appeals that were lodged against the decision by the Minister of Environment, Fisheries and Forestry that gave us the exemption to bypass the flue gas desulfurization units to exploit the temporary stacks. We have responded comprehensively, and essentially there was issues around the health plan. We responded by late next week, and of course the Minister of DFFE at the right time, she will make that determination. So it's a space that is left to her, and I'm sure that once that gets to be resolved, we'll get the benefit of that 2,100 megawatts plus that are going to come from those 3 units, and we should be in a position to drive down the unplanned capacity loss factor. As a result, there's additional megawatts on the available capacity, and that means that we're able to bring down the intensity of load shedding. An area that still requires additional attention on our part is the issues around the partial load losses. I did indicate we have identified the stations that are notorious for elevated levels of the partial load losses. And Mr. Numalo has galvanized additional expertise, as I've indicated, to help us to resolve those challenges. Is an area of attention going into the future. You can see that there's significant amount of megawatts, upwards of 7,000 megawatts. It's something that requires attention. It's the one area we badly had, at least the previous week, we are doing badly compared to the baseline of May 2023. Remember, I did say that we use May as our baseline so that we have an appreciation of the trend analysis of what this performance is going into the future. And of course, as expected, the PM forecast significantly lower than what was the winter period because of the warmer temperatures that we were experiencing. You can see we are a good 2,000 megawatts lower than what was the base case in May, and that's why we're using that opportunity for us to be able to do good maintenance and ensure that as we return these units, the units are able to perform going into the future. We are improving on our outage slips thanks to Mr. Ngumalo and the team, the various general managers at our respective power stations. I think we are covering ourselves in glory to see that we are improving significantly on the areas of what do I call it, the outage slips, I'm sorry. So we are making a significant progress. And really the point to be made is that relative to our baseline of May, we are making that progress. Like I said, the baseline of May, when it comes to the areas of available capacity, we're sitting approximately at about 27,000 megawatts. The week that we have gone by, we are sitting at about 29,000 megawatts. And then on the other indicators, the indices that we are measuring during this period, again, like I said, on the outage slips, we are seeing significant improvement. I think we are at about 800 megawatts, 804 megawatts to be precise, in relation to the outage slips. And again, we will address the issues of the PCLF. I said earlier on, we really want to bring it down to sub 14,000 consistently, so that at any given time we don't have more than 14,000 megawatts that is out of circulation, because that undermines the rate at which we are able to keep the lights on, and it calls for higher levels of load shedding. So we're making the kind of progress that we desire, and like I said, going into the more warmer period, we'll ensure that we are using that for good maintenance, whilst ensuring that we are calculated and we don't intensify the load shedding. And of course, when we bring the 3 units at Kusile, that there is a good injection in relation to available capacity. And like I've indicated the last time, we're expecting to fire Unit 5 by December of this year. That's another 700 megawatts plus that will come onto the stream. That's dispatchable. Of course, these units, they pay about 800 megawatts, but we think what is dispatchable are approximately 712 megawatts or so. So you can see that there is that consistent improvement in relation to additional capacity. Of course, the 3 units really is only unplanned capacity loss factor, and new generation capacity is Unit 5, which is a welcome injection in relation to the performance. So I will leave it there for now, and then we are ready to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will now go to the question and answer session with members of the media. We will start with members of the media who are in-house. By show of hand, we are ready for the session.
To repeat something that you spoke about Thursday, but want to understand that when you on the transmission funding side, what are you talking about? Secondly, what kind of money is in consideration out of the 210 billion rand that we have already spoken about. Basically, is it possible for the cabinet to approve that? And finally, you also spoke something in the beginning of your presentation about emissions, and the Minister Policy might give some indication on that. I could not follow it. If you can repeat that. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments?
Thank you. I'm covered on transmission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more in the house?
Zimigo from Newsroom Africa. Just to get a sense, Minister, of how are we looking in the next week or so in terms of load shedding, and what has improved. I understand that you've shared some statistics in terms of megawatts that have assisted us in terms of being at a lower levels of load shedding. But generally and overall, are we making any improvements? Should we brace ourselves for a continued lesser scales of load shedding, or the worst is still coming?
Thank you, Senego. Any more questions in the house? Vanessa, can we go to you with questions online?
Question is from Helma Prouse from Independent Media. When will the planned risk level be reduced as the unplanned outage is now closer to 13,000 megawatts rather than 16,000 megawatts? The other questions are from Terence Creamer at Engineering News. He has two questions. One, how likely is it that Eskom